Science never actually said that cigarettes were good for you. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. And I think this is an important thing for us to think about when it comes to health, nutrition, all this sort of research in any of these areas, because we do need to be aware there are a lot of myths out there that scientists or experts have stated certain things as facts, or that research has shown stuff when the reality is sometimes it has, sometimes it actually hasn't. Sometimes it's myths and rumors. Sometimes it's media blowing things out of proportion. Okay? Right? Sometimes it's media blowing things out of proportion, and sometimes it's industry-funded propaganda that may not have ever actually been in a study. Okay, and that's a big one. Okay, so we need to be aware that that's a factor, as well as the fact that again, industries will fund studies sometimes that conflict with a larger body of data, meaning you might have 100 studies that have shown something, or 100 studies looking into something, and 80 to 85 of them showed one thing, and it's not in the best interest of an industry, and so they will pay for a bit of a biased meta-analysis to come out and say, no, it's not actually the case. But then you have to look at the funding of that and what's going on. Okay, so that is stuff that we do need to be aware of when it comes to these things. And it's been done with products, with foods, with drugs, with supplements, all of these things. So just be aware of that. And cigarette smoking is one of the very first examples. And industry did such an amazing job with their propaganda that to this day, the grandchildren of the people who heard this are now running around saying science used to say it. That's how effective their propaganda machine was. Okay? People actually believed that happened. It didn't. What really happened is, guess what? There was some science starting to come out saying, hey, smoking might be bad for you. Okay? Almost 100 years ago. There were some medical doctors and other people who were noting, smokers had certain problems. We're seeing anyone who smokes, they have certain problems at a much higher rate. And some experts had started looking into stuff, and they were finding, some research that smoking cigarettes was contributing potentially to certain cancers, to certain lung diseases, diseases of the throat, all these things. And they're like, man, we're starting to research this, and we're finding some really strong correlations here. This inhaling all this smoke, it looks like it may not be good for you. Okay? Again, different medical industry. We didn't have the technology and tools we have today, but they were looking at it saying, hey, we think there's a problem. And this started kind of coming out that some doctors and researchers were noting some patterns here, saying this may not be good for us at all. It's really common and everyone does it, but this is we need to really research this further. Okay, what do you think the response was? Keeping in mind that well over 50% of the population smoked. That was enormous sums of money. Think of how big the tobacco industry was, even in the U.S. I mean, it still is all over the world, but even in the U.S., okay? It's a big, big deal. This was an enormous, massive, profitable industry. So what do you think they did? They started running ads. They started literally running ads with hiring actors as doctors, saying doctors recommend that you should smoke for your health. Doctor so-and-so, and then the actor in the picture, or in the news story, the magazine ad, all this stuff, right? Flyers. Okay, but here's the reality. Everyone said, but it was a doctor saying it. Well, no, it usually wasn't just a picture of an actor. And the tobacco companies would put on there that he was a doctor and this is what he said. And doctors recommend it. Okay, that wasn't actually what was happening, but that's what they created in their advertising. It was false advertising. It was marketing. Then people smoked for their health. Also keeping in mind, as was also pointed out, a few doctors did support it. But But doctors are biased just like other people. Those were a very small minority. Just like a lot of stuff in nutrition and other stuff, there are quack doctors who support really dangerous, bad nutrition practices that all the other experts out there say, we know this is bad for you. Okay, a few of them will still support it because doctors are human. They have their biases. They have their issues too. But keep in mind, that's not a consensus when that happens on occasion. Okay? And that doesn't mean that that's a bunch of scientific research, and it doesn't mean science. Okay? For science to say, for us to say, hey, this is supported by science, we need numerous studies in support of this. And studies attempting to debunk it that fail to debunk it. That's an important part too. It's a big part of science. If you don't have that, science isn't actually saying it. So in the case of the cigarettes back then, there wasn't science in support of it. There had been no science, and the first bit coming out, the very first science looking at it was coming back saying, we think there could be a problem. We need to research it further, but it looks like this may be unhealthy. And industry responded. Okay, but that shows how powerful marketing can be. And don't we see the same stuff all the time with a lot of other things? Yeah, particularly in the health and fitness world. You know, conflicting studies, of course, make it easier. But keep in mind, there's bias studies, stuff that, and we also keep in mind, occasional quack or occasional fad or whatever, a doctor can come out who supports something. The bulk of the research can be against it, and maybe they even fund a study and they get a study supporting it, one study. It hits the news, well, the doctors now say this is good for you. And it may not even be what the study really said. They might even have found a single good ingredient in something bad. Okay? Wine was a perfect example. They found some beneficial stuff in wine. Well, you know, you could just eat grapes and get that beneficial stuff. Before long, the media is up screaming a glass of wine a day is healthy. Well, all the research and all the leading experts who've studied alcohol know that even a glass of wine a day actually has a net negative effect. Right? That drinking in moderation is harmful to your health. This is what research shows. So when we talk about what does science say, science actually says drinking even in moderation is harmful. Any alcohol is technically harmful to us. The less it is, the smaller the harm, but it is technically harmful. Okay? So that is what the science has been saying for a very long time and still continues to say, and what the leading experts say. So again, be aware that just because someone says science says something, or they find a single study suggesting it, or some conflict, does not mean that science ever said it. So people can use that as an excuse to ignore science, and that's not a wise idea. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.